Tonight and every weeknight here on ENCA, a variety of newsmakers will get their chance to host this program. We'll give you, the viewer, a chance to get involved in the conversation. Unfiltered, accountable and accessible. Over the last few months in Johannesburg, there have been a series of hits targeting motorists in broad daylight. In a number of instances, the victims have been Serbians. Most have had links to organised crime. Some have histories in paramilitary organisations in their country. This has led to some saying that South Africa is being used as a proxy battleground for warring Eastern European crime syndicates. There have been no arrests in connection with any of these incidents, and police seem to be doing not very much about it at all. So tonight we'll ask whether there is a turf war playing out in our backyard between dangerous Balkan gangs fighting over drugs. You can be part of the conversation. Here's how.
Tweet us at ENCA using the hashtag LHIO. Call us on 011-759-6340 or send us a WhatsApp or WhatsApp video on 082-884-6370. And make sure those videos are no longer than 30 seconds, please.
Joining me now in studio is organised crime investigator with IRS Forensic Investigators, Chad Thomas. Chad, thanks so much for coming in.
Mandy, thanks for the invite.
So we know that there's been a series of hits over the past few months in Joburg. What is actually going on? Are these isolated incidents, or do you believe that it's part of some kind of turf war?
Mandy, it started towards the end of last year with the first hit taking place. They weren't successful in killing the individual. The chap was wounded several times in what seemed to be an organised crime attempted hit at the KFC at Bedford Centre. And it's just progressed into various other hits that have taken place in broad daylight. One in Stratham Park in Pretoria, another, or rather in Randburg, another in Jim Forshire Drive in Randburg. Of course, we had the one in Bedfordview very recently, but they're all tied together. They all involve Serb nationals, and all are very professional.
So some of the people that I've been speaking to seem to be suggesting that either it's a fight over drugs or it could be some kind of new organisation that's moved in trying to take control. But your reading of it is that it seems to be some kind of a proxy turf war between two different Serbian factions. Is that right?
Yes. There's a lot of theories doing the rounds, but one of the theories that really sticks is the fact that all of these figures were somehow linked to organised crime. Every single one of them, there's been rumours of drug involvement, there's been rumours of paramilitary involvement, etc. But one has to look at the hit that took place in Serbia itself on George Domonovic to actually understand why I believe South Africa has been used as a proxy battleground. When George Domonovic was assassinated...
So just for people that maybe don't know who George Domonovic is, he was a state security contract agent. In other words, he worked for state security here, but then he went to Serbia and he was killed in New Belgrade. And he was quite a big player in the underworld here. How does he fit into all of this?
George Domonovic, extremely colourful character, very intelligent, highly insightful, very connected, operated in Johannesburg for many, many years. He was of Serbian and Lebanese extract. He was born in South Africa, and he left for Serbia about 4 years ago. He was killed in Serbia earlier this year. And as I was mentioning earlier, is that his identity, his murderers were quite quickly identified, and they themselves were killed in retaliation hit in Serbia. But the authorities already knew who they were. They raided the flat, they found other people, etc. In South Africa, on the other hand, when these Serbians are getting hit by what we believe to be rival Serbians, there is no information as to who's committing the hits. There is no information on the ground, because in my understanding and what I honestly believe is that they're using South Africa as a proxy battleground because it's easier to get away with crime in South Africa than it would be in the Balkan states.
Yeah. So one of the things that has come up is whether Radovan Krejcir, who is this Czech fugitive from justice that's now behind bars in Leeuwkop, who really pretty much, many people allege, ran the underworld in South Africa over a period from about 2007 to 2014, whether he could be involved in all of this. And there is a suggestion that there was a grouping that was associated with him, and now a new grouping is trying to take over. You know, is there a kingpin? Is there some kind of prominent character that we're seeing emerging here? Or is there any reasonable idea that Krejcir could be involved?
December 5 years ago, it'll be 6 years this coming December. It's 5 years, 11 odd months almost. George Mialović's father, Miso, was pulled over by what he believed to be police officers near the Turfentine racecourse. He was beaten within an inch of his life and actually passed away 2 days later from an aneurysm in the Mill Park Hospital. At that stage, people believed that he was beaten so that Radovan could get information about where George was, because he believed George Mialović at that stage owed him money in a drug deal that had gone sour. This has never been proven, and there was a lot of controversy relating to that story. The word on the street is that at a later stage, he and George did make up. George obviously also opened up his own Golden Diamond Exchange. His dad had one. There was one in Nord, there was one in Sandton. And of course, there was the famous Golden Diamond Exchange in Bedfordview that blew up. So George Mialović and Radovan Krejcir definitely knew each other. There was bad blood at a stage. His father was beaten within an inch of his life and then passed away 2 days later. So to say that he may have been involved, there is a possibility. But if you look at all the other hits that have taken place, especially the hits in Serbia and then the other hits on Serbians in South Africa, it's highly unlikely that it's Krejcir.
And then, of course, you speak about George Mialović, and of course, Mialović is the person who was killed in his Porsche Panamera on Van Buren Road on Heritage Day. So just last month, he was shot dead. He was known as Hollywood George. He grew up in Greenside. He was of Serbian descent. There've been no arrests in that incident. Do we have any idea what could have happened there? Because he was such a high-profile individual in Bedfordview and in these circles. Do we have any idea what happened?
George, as well, Mialović, like Domanović, very colourful figure, very well known in Johannesburg. At a stage, he ran one of the more well-known salon privés at one of the more well-known casinos in Johannesburg. He used to drive Ferraris, he drove Porsches, he married Miss Bulgaria. So he was up there, he was in the eyes. But a lot of people said that there was definitely a hit on him. He was told more than 6 months ago there was a hit on him. And at that stage, he was in the Balkan states. And it seemed like he came to South Africa thinking perhaps he could be safer here.
Well, we'll have more on this conversation after the break.